Okay, so I'm going to reread this thing about recording. Open meeting pursuant to MGL C30A 20F. After notifying the chair of the public body, any person may record or transmit this open meeting. The hybrid meeting is being recorded by the town of Stockbridge and apparently other people too. The names of members participating remotely will be announced. Any member of the public wishing to speak must first receive permission from the chair. That person did not receive permission from the chair. The agenda items listed are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, but not all may be discussed, and other topics not listed may be brought up for discussion by the public body as permitted by law. We have disabled all of your video capabilities, so we only see your names up there because we're not going to have that happen again during this meeting. This is, as I said before, this is where we restarted the recording. This meeting is for people who wish to apply for a grant from the CPC to ask questions and get some feedback from the committee. So right now we have Vladimir from the Berkshire Theater Festival, who had begun to describe what they would like to do, and with the renovations of the old Playhouse, and they were thinking about a 2 to 3 year request, which is permitted. I reminded them that the one thing that has tripped up the BTF before is the anti-aid amendment. So anything that might fall under the historic preservation that would allow the Playhouse to do some repairs or works that would be historically correct versus a simple fix, they could be permitted to do and funding would be available. However, because the Playhouse is a ticketed venue, there are going to be limitations under the anti-aid amendment. So you might want to look at that particularly carefully.
And so the windows you mentioned could be a possibility. The slate roof could be a possibility.
Yes.
Would that include also maybe the cupola?
Yes, I would think so.
It doesn't change the picture at all if there is events open to the public, or the fact that there is ticketed events kind of excludes it.
It gets goodwill if there are like the Rockwell Museum, for example, allows residents of Stockbridge to come free.
Okay.
Every day.
Right.
So that's kind of a big deal.
Okay.
Because it really, the purpose of the community preservation money is to preserve our community. And so there needs to be a community benefit.
Right.
And you can make that case for whatever it is that you choose. I don't know, for instance, if you had all Stockbridge free on Wednesdays, or I don't know, but that would be something that would be thought about.
I'll have to bring that back to sort of our executive committee because, something like that could be possible. One of the major things we're talking about is, these multimedia experiences that, museums and other institutions have. It's kind of like a sit-down experience. You can go and experience lights and projection, narration, may or may not be live actors, but that would be something that, unlike a play where it happens once a day at 6 and that's it, this would be something that could happen once an hour, and we have a much greater capacity. So that might be something. And getting integrated in the community has certainly been part of what we've been trying to do a little more with our collaboration with NOMCAG, and being in parking location, selling tickets with them. So I'll let them know too that if we want to access more CPC funds, that we'd have to work that in there somehow. We have like Berkshire resident discounts, but like you said, the free access is pretty pretty clutch for you guys. That's, something you
Yeah,
can.
I mean, it has to demonstrate community benefit.
Okay. This gave me a new thought that was something that we've kind of put on the back burner, but would be the next step beyond the playhouse. Do you guys cover outdoor spaces at all? We have a lot adjacent to the playhouse that the Burpee Foundation has expressed that because it's an outdoor space, if it would be open to the public as well, they could help develop that. Would that be something that would fall under CPC? Possibly.
Yeah, that could, I think that you could look at that maybe for recreation.
Okay. Do you all?
That's why we have town council.
Yeah.
So, and anything that you might want to submit to under the historic preservation, you should go to the historic preservation committee. They can, we've just got all kinds of outsiders here today. Have we got Linda back yet?
Yes. She popped in for a minute, but she went back off.
Anyway, Linda Jackson, who is in and out here, is our liaison to the historic preservation. She can give you all kinds of good advice as to what you should, how you should maybe, because it has to go to them for review even before it goes to town council.
Mhm.
So that has some very definite restrictions under the auspices of the secretaries.
So then I guess I would just open up to, as sort of council board members and residents, is there something you'd like to see from us that we would prioritize? Or, when you pass by it, do you say, I wish it was like this, or I wish they had this? Make it feel like a more part of the community that is including everyone here and, families and friends, and I don't know.
Well, for me, it's a whole nostalgia thing because I
Yeah.
worked there for 7 years.
Mhm.
And I still have stuff up in my attic that were scenery from
Yep.
the late 60s and early 70s, which I need to bring down for your museum thing. But I think the museum thing is
Right.
aspect of it is great because, people who've lived here for a long time remember a play or a person or something from the theater that they maybe saw and
Mhm.
it's fun. So that I think is of interest to the community,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure how that fits in.
If that was made available to community members for free.
Yeah,
would
that might
put you
be-
in that?
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
Because this theater has a tremendous impact on the history of theater, like summer stock and having 100 year
Generally,
history
yeah.
like that. Yeah. If you amplified that part of, I haven't read your brochure obviously, but if it fits into your plan for the museum aspect, that would be more of a hybrid space where the performance events are ticketed, obviously,
Right,
the
yes.
plays. But if there were a museum, I know you even do like a small piece of it in your lobby now,
Yeah.
where you have like the theater posters and the history of, I've read the little placards. And so if that's part of this and it's an expansion of that aspect and it's open to the public as a matter of course to local residents, there might be an element of it. I don't know. Your
Yeah,
plan.
no, yeah.
Those are the kinds of things that we can, when town council comes back and says, you have to be aware of the anti-aid,
Mhm.
that's when we can go back to town council and say, we believe, because it's up to us ultimately,
Right.
we believe that they have provided a community benefit that is worth it.
Cool.
And it's a community benefit that actually amplifies Stockbridge's role in the
Right.
history of this institution and the theater. Because summer stocks, that's a historical
Right.
marker in American culture. So if we have a way to amplify it through your project, it's also significant to Stockbridge.
I met my husband through some.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, it's what's kept me here. It's,
Yeah.
the Jaffs bought us Pittsfield kids tickets when we were in high school because,
Yeah.
we couldn't afford it. But I had the same thing where you say, you get nostalgic for the old shows and walking through the building, looking at the old posters of like, oh, I saw this show 20 years ago. It had a real big effect on me. And it's like, it's real theater happening here, and it's, you know, I didn't have to go to New York, I didn't have to go to Boston or California. And it still brings me here.
Yes, yeah, it does. And the theater is one of the institutions in town in particular that brings money into the town.
Yep.
Tanglewood, people come, they go to Tanglewood, they eat at Tanglewood, they leave Tanglewood, they go home.
Mhm.
They come to the theater, they come to the Norman Rockwell Museum, they come to the Botanical Garden, they go to Chesterwood, and they're eating
Right.
somewhere in town. They're walking the town, they're spending money in the stores, they're
Yeah.
buying lunch, they're, you know, and that is a benefit to the town.
And that was, like I said, that's our biggest feedback, and our biggest praise about the plan for the project from, you know, Tiffany's, Red Lion, from potential partners, from partners that we have had that have sponsored in the past maybe, or participated in the past, but aren't at the moment, is that they'd like it to be year round because it has that impact in the summer, but a portion of that in the off season would be great.
I mean, I do a day in the country store, which is why we're having the meeting at 6. You know, I hear people saying, oh, we're going to Naumkeag tonight. And there's through the winter lights and the Halloween, as much as some people in town don't like it, I can tell you that it's a boon to the stores in town and the restaurants in town. And it's the same with the theater. We hear people coming in saying, we have tickets at 8 or 7 or whenever the show is. And we hear that. So we know who's coming into town and who's spending money in town and then who's going to see something. So that's, you know, that's all something to consider. And when you're writing up your application, those are the kinds of things that you want to highlight, that the benefit that the theater brings to Stockbridge and
Community, right.
So in the actual application, is it more the budgets for the specific things, add those up and combine, like the cupola, the windows, the roof, see where that gets us and submit basically for that chunk of the project? Or would you rather see the whole project, or with those sort of line items in there, or?
we'd like to see it broken out.
Okay.
Because sometimes we get a response from the historic commission saying that they can't do certain, that they don't see that it fits into their whatever. So it's
But
better
that's specific
if we
aspect
can
of
say,
things,
okay, so the
as-
cupola costs this much and the windows cost this much and the this costs this much.
Mhm.
If we're, which we often are,
Mhm.
pressed for money, you know, usually we have less money than people are asking for, then we can say, okay, we can fund the cupola.
Right.
But that's as much as we can do this year. So it's probably better to break it out.
But doesn't it also help to have the contextual information
Oh, yeah.
about, like, that it's part of this global impact that they're
Oh,
making
yeah.
on the
But
project?
we don't
overall?
need so much detail
No,
on
on those
that
parts,
because
yeah.
that's not what we're going to be looking at. We're
But it would be
gonna
good to know
looking-
kind of
Yeah,
where it fits in.
yeah.
I think that covers kind of the questions we had. That gives us a good direction to go in.
Okay, great.
Appreciate it. Thank you all.
Linda, did you hear enough that you have any questions?
She might still be on the unmute.
We unmute her?
I just asked her to unmute.
Thank you for bringing those too.
There's-
And just as a resident, is there more information online or something about your project? Just not as part of this, but.
Yeah, and I urge you, I mean, really would make an
There's
impact
like a
too. There's a
QR
QR
code.
Oh,
code.
great.
There's a landing page on the website with the video that, it's narrated by, oh my God, what's her name?
Karen Allen.
Yes,
I've seen it.
who's lovely and is gonna be a great help in the future and already has been with things like the video. Yeah, and there's a good video there that kind of shows a little bit of insight into the project, sort of what we have in the archives that no one ever gets to see. I think besides Kate McGuire and maybe Allison, who have been there for 30 years, I've probably spent more time, and Rick Wilcox. I've probably, you know, and then me in the past couple of years, I've spent so much time in there. you know, the possibilities for what we could do is pretty big. The budget for what we can do is a lot smaller. So yeah, we continuously try to get
Baby
that out there.
steps.
Because it comes up, you know, every week at our development. So what can we do with it? How can we do it?
Can people hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, so I did miss quite a bit, but I would just like to just say, have you looked at the guidelines for this application? Because, okay, and you understand that how specific these things are. We did give you the money to get the archival plan done, and nothing happened. That was-
Yeah. I think they submitted reimbursement for that already, Linda.
Yeah,
Okay, if you can show me that, I'd like to see that because hiring the archivist was going to be the step one, a planner. Planning means everything in these historic preservation projects. Everything. And the matches that you're going to present, because we can't completely fund anything right now, I think, given the amount of money we have to share for this entire community. You've got to be very careful on the financing. If it has to go across 3 years or 2 years, make that part of the application.
mhm.
they were talking 2 to 3 years, Linda.
Well, that might make it work.
And like I say, please ask Linda questions because she can really be extremely helpful to you.
Cool.
Okay. All set?
Mark Mills has a hand up.
Mark,
Hold on.
can we unmute? We'll unmute you.
There we go. You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. Mark Mills, 15 Cherry Street, representing the Affordable Housing Trust. We will be submitting in our application some additional funding to build up the account. We are holding to develop some new housing. We do have one proposal that will be something new for the CPC to consider. Over the summer, we were approached by Riverbrook and Pinewoods to provide some emergency funding for their buildings. For example, there was a $20,000 request from Riverbrook for an emergency sewer repair. They also had additional funding available to do that, but that was the share they asked from us. And Pinewoods requested $45,500 to do a roof replacement, the first of a 4-part series of repairs on those replacements on those roofs. So we Affordable Housing Trust approved funding for those projects. And in the course of reviewing that and discussing it, we came up with an idea that it might be good for the CPC to allocate some funds for emergency purposes for the affordable housing developments in the town. Things come up and the CPC funding schedule with the requirement of town meeting approval is a process that takes a long time, and some of these projects need to be done quickly. So we provided that funding out of the CP funds that you have given us in the past. And we thought it might be a good idea for the committee to consider setting aside some funds for emergency purposes during the year that are apart from the funds that we might receive. And that 1 or 2 or whatever number of members of the CPC could join with the Affordable Housing Trust to review those proposals that might come up during the year so that we can act quickly on something. I mean, we were, again, as I said, pleased to help in these instances, but it does partly deplete the funding we have available for any kind of a new housing project that we might want to get into. So we'd like to provide this role and be kind of an emergency funder to help our colleagues, but we don't want to, we also want to keep up our funding for any projects that we might want to come to in the months and years ahead. So that's something we will write up in our proposal and, in detail, but it's something for you to think about as a way to be able to respond to things that might come up, quickly during the year.
Maybe you'd like to think about what you might anticipate. I mean, I know obviously an emergency is an emergency and it's going to be different every time. But if maybe you could come up with some ideas about, like, you've spent $65,000 last year on emergency funding.
Yeah.
Does that like
yeah.
a reasonable amount of money to put aside for an emergency? I mean, obviously, we don't have the funding to cover every emergency that might come up, but maybe think about what would be a reasonable amount of money for the housing trust to have in their war chest to respond to emergencies and
All right.
ask.
Good suggestion. I will certainly speak with my colleagues at our next meeting, see if we can arrive at a figure that seems reasonable and that would work for you and for us and for the affordable housing units in the town. So thank you for that. And that is something you'll be seeing with our application, along with just a general request for some funds for things that we might be trying to pursue in the months ahead.
I think I would make them separate.
Okay.
I think I would make them two separate applications. Does anybody
Okay.
else think so too?
If it's for designated properties, shouldn't those properties, or because it's under affordable housing, would Riverbrook, should they come to us for what they need, or?
The whole question of the Affordable Housing Trust and the funding to it is that they can respond immediately to an emergency with the money that they have.
Yeah, so like Riverbrook couldn't come and ask for money for emergency funds, only the affordable housing. Okay.
Well, no, because they already have it.
Well, wouldn't they just
Yeah.
increase their allocation then in that case, if they already have it? If they already have an emergency fund and they're asking for a larger emergency fund?
Okay, so they have an amount of money that we've allocated to them.
Yeah.
Over the course of the year. And if one of the facilities that has fallen under affordable housing, which would be Riverbrook, Pinewoods, or Heaton Court, comes to them, Affordable Housing Trust, says, just caved in, we have to fix it. They've got the money in their bank and they can give it to them if they vote to do that. We, in order to do that, have to have a meeting, have to have an application, has to go to town meeting, has to,
It's a process.
So the whole idea was to have the money in the Affordable Housing Trust for them to be able to respond quickly. Piece of property comes up for sale. They have their money that they can spend to put a down payment or whatever else to secure the property. We can't do that. We can't respond speedily to anything because we just can't. So for us I would think, they want to have money in their pot. But I think that if they anticipate that they would be responding annually or whatever to a request for emergency funding, and I think I would like to see that be sort of separate, almost reimbursing, like they spent $65,000. I'm not saying we're going to have $65,000 we can give them, but to think about it maybe as sort of like reimbursing for something like that's come up, because we're supporting the affordable housing, which is part of our charge in that way.
I think I'm going to dovetail on what Katie asked, because I think that I was asking for a similar clarification. So it's not possible under this model for Riverbrook or for Pinewoods themselves to ask for an allocation of funds that they can keep in an emergency bucket. It
No.
can only go through Affordable Housing Trust or
Yeah, because we have to
CPC.
have it has to be a very specific reason for what, like they're coming in to say, we want to fix the boilers, or we wanted, which we couldn't fund because it was
At
not.
that point, though, say if we did give like a fund just for the emergency, and if Riverbrook or Pinewoods does go to affordable housing, does affordable housing have the right to say no?
Yes.
Certainly.
Well, if I may, if I can just add a couple of points here, listening to your discussion. The reason I think we should have a kind of a single emergency fund for all of the units of affordable housing is that we never know when these emergencies are going to come up. It may be a year where nobody has any and the money can revert back or be rolled over. There may be a year where one of the three has some issues and we need to address. So rather than each of them having their own emergency fund, we can probably address it more easily with the flexibility of a single fund that we could govern along with input from the CPC. We're not territorial about this. It's just that we can respond quickly to an emergency. And it's just a way of using these funds to address the kind of problems that you normally address, but with the flexibility of kind of moving more quickly on it.
And in order for us to recommend to town meeting a grant to an organization, it has to be very specific. So it can't be sort of general emergency fund.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
And if we were to allocate these emergency funds to the Affordable Housing Trust, it's not, they would be asking for the usual, give us money to fund our bucket to keep building the fund. And now we would be giving them additional funds for this emergency section. But it sounds like then what Katie asked was they can then reject a request for emergency funds. They then have
I would-
autonomy over how those get.
Yeah, it's a little tricky. I don't know that it would go into a separate pot necessarily. I think it would go into their general pot, but I think the request would be with the idea that they would have money for an emergency. I don't know, maybe that's just the way I see it.
Because it would be separate from the money that is requested every year to bump up their
Right,
funds.
I
So it
would
be
think
an
so.
Additional
Yeah.
to what?
Yeah, and we can always say, that's too much money, we can't afford it, and,
Well, any way that, your board can provide input on a request we might get for the emergency money. We're not looking at this as some backdoor way to build up our account, pretending to be good citizens helping our colleagues. We would only be using the funds for those intended purposes. And again, let's just say there was a $50,000 that you allocated to the Affordable Housing Trust for the purpose of dealing with emergencies, we would treat that in our own mind as a kind of a separate sort of account in our mind, and we would not spend it on anything else. And if the year went by and there was no 50, nothing spent, we would in the next year's request say, let's just roll over that 50,000 and have it available. But it would be something we would treat with great respect for its intended purpose, with again, whatever input your board might suggest for participating in how those funds are allocated. We would try to meet every request we could up to the amount of money available. But again, we have an interest in trying to build up our own fund for our purposes. And so this was just a way to try to help solve issues that might come up, at the same time, not depleting the funds we have available for whatever we may want to take on.
okay. Sounds good.
All right, thanks for your attention. And again, it'll be in writing. We'll make you're suggesting a separate application for these funds, or?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
keeping
All
in
right.
mind that we are not, we are not a well of infinity.
Yes, we know. But whatever you can do, it's great. So thank you. Appreciate it.
I have a question, and I know this might be for the next meeting, so if it is, I'm happy to just wait until then. It's a clarification on how, because the Affordable Housing Trust allocation is treated differently. We allocate money only toward projects. Otherwise, in this case, we keep building a fund, an undesignated fund.
Yes.
Is there a threshold at which we ask that the Affordable Housing Trust have a plan or a project or a set of projects, or we just keep building the fund?
We just keep building the fund with anticipating that, Mark indicated that they had They have something in the fire. And, you know, anything that they're going to want to do, any kind of gaining, you know, buying property is going to be ridiculously expensive. So,
Right.
Yeah, we just have, you know, a couple $100,000 in there, which, as you all know, would probably not even be able to put on a wing on a new house. I mean, it's, we're going to eventually have to get into partnership with a builder or developer and use our funds to help reduce the overall costs of the project in such a way that it could become affordable. I mean, right now, the marketplace doesn't allow for anything affordable in and of itself. So you have to patch together a variety of sources of funding, and the state funding that would come into play as well. But it'd be a long way to go before we were sitting on a big pile of money where we could even buy a single home. So the question you raise is a good one, but we're a long way from having a point where you'd say, gee, aren't these guys going to get off the dime? We're trying, but it's not because, you know, we just don't have the funding to advance too quickly. But we're working on it. And as we build our fund and consider new ideas, and take proposals from the public, we want input from anywhere we can get it, as to vacant land that could be available, houses for sale that could be converted into affordable housing, any number of ways, you know, ADUs, tiny houses. There are a lot of options out there. The seasonal communities designation is another one that we're very interested in because it would designate us as a seasonal community. And again, this would have to be approved by town meeting, but it would give us access to some additional funds and some flexibility for having local residents get slots in affordable housing. Right now, people from all over the state can apply to affordable housing slots. And it's hard to say, wait a minute, we want all those for Stockbridge. The seasonal communities designation would allow us some flexibility to say, yes, we're preserving X number of units for local people. So that's something that we will be talking more about. So we have a lot of things we're discussing. And, you know, maybe some of that'll be in our application to give you a little more detail, but, in any case, we're a long way from having a pile of money that we're sitting on and that you need to worry about.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you all for listening.
All right, Gold Meadows. Are you?
I'll take it, okay. Kevin Moran, representing the Stockbridge Bowl Association.
Okay.
And I'm here just to inform and maybe ask for a little bit of money, let you know how much. And the project that we're involved with, have been involved with for years, is the removal and eradication of invasive plants in Boulder Woods. We're probably 6 or 7 years into the project, and we're trying to make some headway this year. Give you just a little snapshot, keep it brief as to where we're at. While we have completed significant heavy lifting, eradicating the hardy kiwi, vine, plus the bittersweet, along most of, but not all of, the edges of the property. However, there needs to be isolated spot treatment due to the resurgency of growth. We would now like to take an aggressive approach as well, eradicating large patches of barberry and mint euonymus. And along the far eastern edge of the property, there is another stretch of kiwi and bittersweet that we want to tackle. It's probably 500 feet of it. And I believe that after this application or treatment is done, we will have nearly completed the project for the time being.
Where is this again? Where are you doing this?
At Bullard Woods, which is a property just below Tanglewood.
Okay.
It runs up to the shoreline of.
Okay. I don't recall permitting the use of herbicides in Bullard Woods.
Well, Sally, any permitting that will need to happen, Native Habitat Restoration will pursue that.
I don't remember that happening, just as an FYI.
Okay.
You? No.
So
So there's no herbicide use there without a permit from the Concom.
So,
And even then, that may not happen.
okay, I will be asking for $10,000 and see where that goes.
Okay. Okay. Ron?
Okay, my name is Ron Broker, and we're matters. Actually, this is a legit. I'm gonna ask for money, but I'm gonna give back money too. We've got for 2024, $9,949.18 that we did not use. Part of that was because we had $6,500 budgeted for the mowing of the meadows, and the town took it over. So that $6,500 is just never going to be used, the town. Same for 2025. I've got $7,190 for the week. 2026, we still got projects going on, so we may. But that $17,139, well, I'd like to return it. I'm also gonna have an ask. And this will be for the parking lot. We've expanded it once already and it's still not big enough. Weekends they're parking on the road or in the field. The 6x6 railing that's around the parking area. Now, it's 6x6, and they're in the ground 2 feet. You're pushing them over, they're knocking them around. I've seen cars, I know of cars that had the front fender badly damaged or almost taken off. So we'd like to pull that all out and replace it with a stone wall. I've gotten, and I've talked about the stone wall with contractors over the last couple of years. But I never really got a firm price, and most of them never got back to me on it anyway, so the interest wasn't there. I do have one contractor that came in, actually was there Monday, before I even know this meeting was today. We measured it out, he's getting prices for materials. And this may be a two-part project, because this could get real expensive for our perspective anyways. Do 40 Ken with whatever funds we get this year, and then continue on next year. We're basically gonna redesign the whole parking lot, so we can park on both sides, on the east and west side of the parking lot, with an area in the middle where you can back out and get turned around. We can do that with just by removing some sod, putting in gravel, but the stone wall would be built, I don't know if you're familiar with the parking area, down on the bank, and we'd move what's there now and build up to the stone wall. Measured 110 feet for the first portion of it. And I have, like I said, I have not gotten any prices on this yet. But I think the $17,139 is not gonna cut it. I'm probably looking for, this is a complete guess, $40,000 to $45,000 for this project. The wall will be permanent. You'll be able to sit on it, there'll be a break in the wall for steps to go down the meadow. Will not knock it around, make it build it. If they slam into a stone wall, then they won't do it next time.
Maybe.
So, it's a, the 2024, 2025 monies, I just didn't feel it was right to hold on to them any longer. If we could put that together, whatever we asked for, and figure in, and this is just a guess, I'm shooting on degrees here, $40,000 to $45,000 for this partial restoration of the parking area and the wall. We can do a large portion of it with this funds. We will continue on, and then next year we will try to continue some more wall. Basically, it will run from the little kiosk down to the other corner, and there'll be some fill put in and gravel area. Hoping that maybe a little bit of grass between the parking area and the stone wall gives people enough incentive not to drive into the wall.
Fingers crossed.
You've seen drive park in town, so.
Well, you know that we have always looked very favorably on everything that you've asked for from Gould Meadows. And part of that is because it really does provide community benefit. And you guys have been amazing in getting volunteer labor to do a lot of the work that you've done. So we've gotten a real bang for our buck, I think, over the years. So
The biggest plus we've had is when the town took over the mowing fields.
Yeah.
And that was $6,500 that we spend every year. How often you mow grass? We only did it once a year because of the nesting birds in association with the Audubon Society, which they just put up. And they didn't, somebody private put up a kestrel nest box, and there's some purple martin houses down in the field. That's everybody's asked what those are. They're artificial boards made out of plastic because the Native Americans used to put boards up for the bird's nest in. One of these are plastic ones now. It's actually pretty neat. You got a whole pulley system they go up and go down. We did not pay for that. It was all free. We donated the funds. We're looking to redo some of the purple martin houses. This is the first time I went down the Cape on vacation. I started getting calls down there about the birds nesting. They said, "Oh, we haven't seen them." And this is what they told me. I've got a discrepancy issue with this. First time in 100 years that we've had purple martins nest in Berkshire County or documented nesting. They may well have been here, but nobody made the effort. It wasn't a big deal. And so it's a big deal. All the birders were running around with little metals. They're meadowlarks. They're not meadowlarks. Bobolinks are back down there. So that's the kind of thing that's going on at the stone wall. It'll be kind of like the wall at the library. Everybody sits on it. You can stand on it and walk in. And it's going to be a big improvement over the 6x6s in this way. They keep knocking the top off and put it in the corner. And that's going to be our ask. I'm not sure on the funding or on the price of this yet, but I know it's $17,000 when you draw the interest from contractors. That's probably about the cost of the materials. We've got some rock. We saved a bunch from the bridge down in, which one was it? I think the one in there, like, we got all, the bankings were all stone with big chunks of rock and native field stone and stuff. Got that shipped up to the Gould Meadows, and we got a pile of stone up there that's going to be incorporated into this. But I don't know what kind of rock, we're getting price the different kind of stone. So that could be used, there probably will be used somewhere. Level surface on top. We went to Olivia's South Overlook, look at that wall up there. That's a little more than we want to spend. It's like 30 some inches tall, it's like 4 feet thick. Maybe that with a truck now. So we're not looking for that massive type of structure, but on the top there's a plaque saying donated the land and that type of, and that sort of plaque will go on. We've already got signs up on there now for where the money's come. So that's going to be our ask. Come up with closer figures, but we can incorporate that $17,000 into it, it won't seem so bad.
We've done that before with the Hearst House. We looked at what they were turning back when we were looking at how much to allocate to them. So it's
We
not
don't have any.
not unprecedented.
Any invasive tree work or that type of thing scheduled for this year. There's trees down there that have been planted, they're all marked, they've got plant collars on them, so the deer don't get them, the mice don't get it. So we'll see how that goes before we expand on that. But, it's hard, I'm not a big fan of spending big bucks. I mean, people walk around down there all the time, and 90% of them are estating, so. So that's why we're not incorporating all of these assets at the same time. So we're getting closer.
Since it's a parking area, could I just ask you, and this, I'm just curious, what is the current parking capacity versus what the expansion will provide?
There's probably room for 15 cars,
Right now? What do you think, when you expand it, what do you think that will,
30.
oh, wow. All right.
This won't all happen this year.
No, I know. I know.
This is a major portion.
All right,
If it comes in and turns left and heads north,
all right.
that's about where we're gonna stop. One is on the south side. Project. See what this one comes.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kate,
Kate Fletcher here with Laurel Hill and Cheryl Bestares, mostly Laurel Hill. And we've been looking for the grant, the extension and on that. That's some things like replace a footbridge and we have some funds to return there, but we're not sure yet. So we still have some more work to do. But we're looking ahead and we just wanted to ask you your thoughts on, we're thinking about the Chestnut Preserve south of town, which is in pretty sad shape. And what we're thinking about doing is there's a circular drive. So there's the south entrance and then there's the north entrance. So what we were thinking about doing was closing off the north entrance so that the space would be and putting, planting trees with the idea that you would close off some of that noise from the highway, make it a little bit more quiet in there, a little bit noisy, and just a little bit more private, and would also prevent people from just using it as a drive around. What they're doing is they're driving in one entrance and driving out the other, and they're doing a lot of damage to the grass area where ideally we want people to be able to hang out. So currently it's being used for parking. That wasn't the intent. So basically, this is just, a rough idea. We would have to gather some information to get a better idea of the money involved, but we would be looking to, in a very naturalistic way, to a lot of birders use that space. It's very popular with birders. So we would be looking to sort of close it off a little bit and then create a little bit of parking off the south end as you pull in. There's an apple tree. Just beyond that, there's a natural place where you could have, two parking spaces. So, it's, of course, it's open to the public currently and continue to be open to the public, of course. And we would also see it as just potentially a really good educational opportunity. Do some plantings that are more oriented towards birds, pollinators, oak trees, and, that type of thing. And then also just, sort of as an educational resource, maybe focus the property in a way that it's a place for people to have a break, during the day, as well as for the birders. And then, you know, there's some invasives, there's the area sort of in the middle, there's a mound, quite a bit of invasives there. So we would be looking to address that as well. So that's just the general idea. And, you know, thought we would get your input, love to hear your thoughts on it.
I know that the Riverbrook girls expressed great interest in birding, so they would be, they would love that.
And Nick was on our board.
Yeah.
As with his couple boxes.
Yeah. I wonder if there wouldn't be some possibility of having some sort of representation of what birds people might possibly find there. You know, what do people see regularly there? Because there are going to be people who wouldn't know a bird, you know, a swallow from a woodpecker.
Yeah, no, we would, you know, there's some educational materials there currently and they're pretty dilapidated and falling apart. So we would be looking to update that information and just make it more current. You know, there's so much exciting going on in the world of ecology right now. So we would be looking to make that space, you know, enhance it for birders and make it a space where people can go and relax and just make it a little bit more relevant.
So I must be the only one in the room who doesn't know the answer to this. Where is this? I'm sorry.
It's out of town, as you're heading, you know, South Street.
Mhm.
You cross over
On the left.
first you cross over the Housatonic and then you cross the railroad tracks.
Yeah.
And then just beyond that, you'll see 2 Laurel Hill Association signs.
Oh, that, okay, I know that.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
okay.
exciting.
I didn't know what it's called.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Sorry.
It was originally to try and find some American chestnuts and store them.
I've been there. I just didn't know what it was called.
Didn't work out that well. Yeah, it's got a wicked bump on the way out.
Yeah, there's, these work for sure, it's on our radar screen. It's good for the time.
Yeah, no, this sounds great, Kate. I like the idea.
So what would you like, in terms of, I didn't realize that the timeframe, thank you, Erica, for that information, that the timeframe for applications had shifted. So
Yeah.
what's
We
the
started with that last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
what's that? So what's the timeframe in terms of submitting an application and doing a report on our Mary Flynn Trail?
The applications are due November 14th at noon, so
Okay,
that's a Friday.
okay,
And then the prior year awards, the annual report, I think is due October 31st.
okay. We can do that, thank you.
And Erica has those great forms that she created so that it's really
I'll email
easy.
that to you.
Thank you.
It's really easy for people to do a report on their previous years of just saying, you know, we either spent it or we didn't spend it, or we aren't going to spend it, or whatever you want to say.
Technical question, so if we do have funds, one thing we were thinking about, we had such a great team working on the volunteers and so on. If we did have funds left over from Mary Flynn Trail, from the grant for that, so the first part of the trail is actually owned by the town. So could we do a joint project with the town with those funds to, you know, since we have the team in place, now would be the logical time to do repairs to the boardwalk on the first part of the trail? Is that something?
I think so.
Even though
Because
the
it was-
town owns that section.
Yeah, you'd have to get some sort of representation from the town that it's all right for another organization to do the repairs, but the money was allocated for that trail. So whoever owns it, I think it's fine to go forward.
Thank you,
I would love to see that fixed and brought up, yeah.
thank you. Does anyone else have anything?
Because would that be you, Katie?
I don't know, but if it's something that it needs a town entity, I don't mind putting it under Parks and Rec, because would it fall under the parks because it is town property and it's going, I can figure this out.
Well, it's actually Laurel, the Chestnut Preserve is Laurel.
Yeah. But the part of, the trail for,
The Mary Flynn.
Oh,
Mary
right.
Flynn.
Oh, okay, so we should talk to Michael or?
yeah, I'll see if that's something that
Yes.
The town, can the town as a whole? Let me research this. I have no idea. I'll ask Donna. I'll call Donna. Of course.
Okay,
George has disappeared.
yeah, so did Ann.
I have a request for Parks and Rec.
Okay,
We're gonna be going after money and I don't know the budget yet. Bidwell Playground on Main Street here is falling apart. There's broken pieces that I can't find replacements to because the play structure is over 30 years old. So I have a meeting on Monday with Parks and Rec. I want to explore either what it would cost to take that part down and build a new play structure or an additional play structure where the baseball field was. So that's just something that is on our radar right now.
okay,
But I did send the CPC board the kayak launch on Park Street. That 15,000 is going back in. And I'm starting this fall with the DPW to do the invasive species at the town beach. And that shouldn't be close to 20,000. Thank you. So.
okay.
Easy peasy. I think, hopefully.
Sounds good. Well, we'll have a lot more surprises this year than we've had the year before because we don't know who's coming in. All right, so.
Anything else?
No, I think it's great. Thank you. Yeah, so,
Sally, I forgot to ask Ron, and he's gone now, but did they finish the milk shed or what they were gonna do with it?
not finished it yet, but it's being worked on. It's been a contractor nightmare trying to get somebody to work on the foundation,
I'm sure.
what I understand.
Yeah.
Sure.
Erica, I have
Yeah.
a question. So after like this and we figure out what is being put back into the pot and things like that, we'll have a number at the next meeting.
Yes, so before the
really
next
close.
meeting, I'll send out figures for about how much you'll have available to give away for projects.
Okay.
I have a question also.
Yes.
Does Stockbridge have a community preservation plan like other towns do? Or did I miss that in the
We
documentation?
do not have
No.
one set yet. We've looked at doing one and we had the guy from the community preservation organization come and present, but we haven't formally adopted one yet.
Is that something that we will discuss at some point?
We
in this
can.
Body?
We probably should, yes.
I would, for one, would be interested in
Okay,
learning more about that process and whether it's appropriate and something that would benefit us.
okay. All right, anything else anybody wants to bring up? Motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
I don't make.
No,
I
I'll
can't
make a motion
it.
to adjourn.
And I'll second.
Okay, sorry, I'm already ready for dinner.
Long enough order, right? Whatever you ate in the car, didn't hold
All right.
the carrot cake or whatever.
I'm not sure. Let's
Do
see
we have
what
the
I,
next meeting set up?
7,
Yes.
10.
Yeah.
It was in December.
November 8th, isn't it?
Do we have to do a voice vote? 'Cause
November
Linda's
8th.
on.
Something.
Yes, we do. Aye,
Okay.
Sally.
Hi, Liz.
Patty?
Hi, Katie.
I think it's December 12th.
I Jet.
Aye, Coke.
Say aye.
What's it?
Say aye.
Adjourn.
Aye, sorry.
Linda, say
Hi,
aye.
Linda.
Okay.